VHP leaders sit in on all key RSS meetings, and this is one of the senior most leaders of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad. What does the Christian community make of the VHP's comments challenging the Vatican directly? I want to go across live to Bengaluru. Joining us from there is Father Thomas D'Souza. He's the Archbishop of Kolkata. Father, welcome to Headlines today. I want to begin by asking you, you heard that interview with Dr. Surinder Jain. He's challenging the Vatican and saying Vatican won't allow the construction of a Hindu temple. Why should we allow the construction of churches? How do you respond to it, Father?
Well, I would consider that an absurd logic, because the argument is absurd and there is no logical reasoning at all. We are in India, and India is a secular state. We have a constitution that gives us rights to profess, to propagate and practice and propagate our faith to all. And therefore, this has been the tradition in this country for thousands of years, and just the VHP cannot say that they are the deciders of who should and who should not become a Christian or so. It is up to every person to decide.
VHP,
because
in that interview that we did, said this was a spontaneous reaction by locals in the area who were unhappy with the fact that missionaries had come and were trying to get people to convert. How do you respond? Because spontaneous reaction to by locals, that's the kind of spurious argument we've heard earlier. It's being offered once more, and that vandalism actually being justified, Father.
You see, the spontaneous is an interpretation by them, because there are places where there were so many Christians and even their churches were vandalized. For example, what happened in 2008 in Mangalore? There were so many Christians around, and their churches were vandalized. Elsewhere too, and in other places. Why all this? What happened in Kandhamal? It is not because it's a spontaneous reaction, but even where there are Christians and so on, is the interpretation that VHP gives to situations because they want to do it.
But one of the things the VHP leader said, and that's based on police records, is that there have been 206 attacks on temples in the capital in the same time period, that there were 3 attacks on churches. And he says the manner in which the Christian community has responded is completely disproportionate to the attacks. He says that most of them were law and order related incidents, and the police record shows that the number of attacks on temples is actually, sir, far higher.
Perhaps, I do not know the statistics, but also you think of the 3 churches or 5 churches we talk about, where proportionately the Catholic Christian population is very small in our country. And not that any temple or any mosque or any Buddhist pagoda or anything should be attacked. No, anybody who attacks any place of worship is doing something wrong, and that needs to be condemned, whether it be a Hindu temple or a Christian church or a Muslim mosque or anything like that. A place of worship is sacred, must be respected. So it doesn't depend only on this number. We should not count only the number, but anything, even one, is enough.
So Julio Ribeiro said yesterday, he was on our channel, he said that he feels a strange sense of siege. He doesn't feel Indian any longer. He feels that the Modi government is not being able to protect minorities. Is that a concern that you share as well, sir?
Yes, I do. Because you see, the way things have been allowed to happen, I think gives a signal that those who want to do that sort of harm, they are free to do so. Maybe externally some statements are made, but often the statements are not obeyed or followed, and that doesn't stop, and this doesn't stop. So action has to be strong, law must be enforced, where is applicable and as per law, and therefore just making a statement that doesn't lead to action is not
for
fruitful.
a moment I want to draw you away from what's happening in Haryana to what's happening closer home for you in Bengal. And I have here a quote from a police officer who's looking at this case, because the rape of a nun has got headlines all across the world, and this is being projected as a communal case. But the police believe this could also be a simple law and order case. The cop says, and I quote now, "The nun is the finance head of the school. The attackers' decision to keep the other two nuns confined to a room hints at the role of insiders in this attack. The gang seems to have had prior information that she was the head of finance, and they kept asking her about the places where the money had been kept." Now, this is coming from cops. Is that not dangerous, Father, that we present this as a communal incident, whereas the investigation is A, not complete yet, and B, could possibly also throw up the fact that this could have been a law and order related attack, sir?
See, I do not know. This is the reason why we have been pressing for the arrest of the culprits. Only when you arrest them will you really know the truth. And once you know the truth will set you free. In other words, you will find out the motive, why things were done. Was there any group that was behind this? Or was it only for robbery? Were there other motives involved in this? Why the desecration of the chapel? Why was it done? What was the motive? And why was that 70-year-old sister raped so cruelly? Why? Was it only for money, or were there other motives? I do not know. Because I think at this stage, I find it too premature to say anything. That's why I've always been saying that those culprits should be nabbed and should be arrested, questioned, and the motives must be
you've been
brought out
quoted
very
in
clearly.
DNA newspaper as saying that a one-man delegation from Vatican City is reaching Kolkata airport Wednesday afternoon for an independent probe on this attack. Is that correct? Do you support the fact that a delegation from the Vatican is coming, and why should a delegation from Vatican be coming?
I have no news. No, I have no news. Actually, tomorrow, who is going to visit Ranaghat is the president of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of India, the CBCI, that has its headquarters in New Delhi, and he, as the president of the Conference of the Bishops of India, Catholic Bishops of India, is going to visit the convent, the sisters, and especially the sister who is in that terrible trauma and fear, etc., to give his sympathy and consolation. And it is not from Vatican as far as I know, because he is not the Vatican representative. He is the head of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of India. So
I'm going to leave it over there tonight. Father, for joining us from Bengaluru with your thoughts. Thank you very much. Yes, sir, very quickly.
Yeah, that is, you see, going back to that argument about Vatican and the temple, etc. You know, there are temples built in Europe, in America, so many places, and this is going on also. So we cannot ignore the fact that elsewhere too, that there is freedom to build other places of worship of other
absolutely
faiths.
And most importantly, what is written in the Constitution must be upheld. And the Prime Minister just last month was saying that everyone has the right to propagate their religion and adopt a religion of their choice. That fundamental right cannot be clamped down on. And Mr. Modi, the onus is on you to ensure that these fringe elements are brought under control. Father, for joining us tonight, thank you very much.